Welcome to Sleep by Story. Tonight you'll hear a gentle bedtime story designed to help you unwind, quiet your mind, and ease into a peaceful night's sleep. If you enjoy calming stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. We share new sleep stories every week. Now let's begin. There is a little house at the end of Greenvale Street. It's not the kind of house anyone would notice, not really. The paint is weathered, the shutters slightly uneven, and the garden, though once lovingly tended, has grown wild in a quiet sort of way. But if you looked carefully, really carefully, you'd notice the window. Not just any window. A single square pane of glass framed in faded blue wood. Sitting just above the old ivy, it curled like lazy handwriting along the wall. Behind that window, every morning without fail, a woman sits. Mrs. Eleanor Mayfield. She's been there longer than most of the houses on the street. Longer than the cafe on the corner. Longer than the cracked pavement that leads past her gate. No one remembers when she moved in, but everyone knows her as the lady in the window. She doesn't wave. She doesn't frown. She simply watches and sips her tea at precisely 6:15 every morning, rain or shine. Eleanor rises from the same creaky iron-framed bed, wraps her cardigan tight, and walks to the kitchen. The kettle is already filled. It always is. She fills it the night before, just in case her hands are tired in the morning. She lights the old gas stove with a flick, waits, listens to the click of the flame, and begins waiting. Waiting for the boil, waiting for the window. There's something you should know about Eleanor. She doesn't live in the past, but she walks beside it. Like a shadow she never quite outgrew. The teacup she uses each morning has a small chip. She never minds. It belonged to her mother. And before that, perhaps her mother's mother. No one quite remembers. She places a single bag of Earl Grey into the cup, just as the kettle starts its gentle hiss. No sugar, just a splash of milk. She stirs once, only once, and carries the cup to the window. Outside, the rain taps like fingertips on glass. A steady, familiar rhythm, like breath, like heartbeat, like time itself whispering, "I'm still here." Eleanor lowers herself into the worn armchair, its arms polished smooth by years of elbows, its fabric sun-faded in a way that makes it feel like a memory, not furniture. She takes a sip, then another, and begins watching. Not for anything in particular, not anymore, just for the way the world moves, slowly, naturally, without asking permission. At 6:37, a man with a green umbrella walks by. He never looks up. He never has. But she knows he's a baker. She's never been inside his shop, but she knows he smells of flour and rising dough. He always walks a little faster on Thursdays. At 6:42, a red bicycle clinks past the gate. No rider, just the bike, rolled by someone out of sight. At 6:55, the church bell rings once, low and slow. Not because there's a service, not because anyone is listening, but because it always has. And Eleanor smiles, because all is as it should be. She finishes her tea, rests the empty cup on the windowsill, and closes her eyes, just for a moment. just enough to listen to the silence between the raindrops. Not lonely, not forgotten, just present. Eleanor opens her eyes slowly and breathes in the quiet air. Outside, the rain softens to a gentle drizzle. The world feels still, wrapped in a calm that only moments like this can bring. She takes a deep breath and listens to the rhythm of the day beginning. A soft chirp breaks the silence. A bird calling somewhere nearby. Eleanor smiles, knowing spring is just around the corner. The garden may be wild, but life always finds a way to bloom again. The window frames a world that moves quietly but surely. A soft chirp breaks the silence. A bird calling somewhere nearby. Eleanor smiles, knowing spring is just around the corner. The garden may be wild, but life always finds a way to bloom again. The window frames a world that moves quietly but surely. The clock ticks softly on the wall, marking the slow passage of time. Eleanor watches the street below, where footsteps fall at different paces. Each person carries their own story, their own quiet hope or worry, hidden from view but felt in the air. She stands and stretches gently, her cardigan falling from her shoulders. The kettle's faint whistle calls her back to the kitchen. She moves slowly but with purpose, each motion measured and calm. In this quiet routine, there is comfort and peace. Eleanor prepares a second cup of tea, this time adding a hint of honey. The scent fills the small kitchen, warm and sweet. She thinks of the seasons she has seen come and go, each one marked by moments just like this, small and perfect. Carrying her tea back to the window, she pauses for a moment to glance outside. The rain has almost stopped, leaving droplets clinging to the leaves. A gentle breeze stirs the ivy, making it dance softly against the faded blue frame. She settles once again into her chair, lifting the warm cup to her lips. Her eyes follow a squirrel darting across the fence, quick and lively. The world beyond her window is alive, full of quiet stories waiting to be told. Eleanor lets her thoughts drift like the clouds outside. Memories flicker like old photographs' faces, places, laughter long past. Yet here, in this moment, she is grounded, present, watching, living each breath with gentle attention. The light outside begins to change, softening as the day moves toward afternoon. Shadows stretch across the street, and distant voices mingle with the faint hum of life. Eleanor breathes deeply, feeling the slow pulse of time's steady march. As the rain fades completely, the sky clears to a pale blue. Eleanor closes her eyes briefly, a peaceful smile touching her lips. In the quiet of her little house at the end of Greenvale Street, everything feels just as it should. The afternoon sun filters softly through the curtains. Eleanor leans back, feeling the warmth on her face. The quiet hum of the house wraps around her like a gentle embrace. Outside, life carries on, unaware of the small moments held here. A cat slinks past the garden gate, its fur glistening in the light. Eleanor watches as it pauses to sniff the wildflowers. The scene is peaceful, simple, yet full of small stories waiting quietly to be discovered by patient eyes. Eleanor's hands fold neatly in her lap. She thinks about the years she has spent in this little house, how the walls have witnessed laughter and tears, beginnings and endings. Time moves slowly here, but it moves with purpose. The scent of damp earth drifts in through the window. A soft breeze stirs the curtains, making the shadows dance gently across the floor. In this quiet moment, the world feels as if it is holding its breath, waiting for something unseen. She glances down at her worn slippers, a faint smile on her lips. These slippers have carried her through countless mornings, just like this one. Each scuff can crease a memory, a silent testament to the life lived within these walls. Eleanor stands and moves toward the bookshelf. Her fingers brush over the spines of well-loved books, each one a window into another world, a place she visits often in her thoughts. Stories that have kept her company through many quiet days. Pulling out a thin volume, she flips through the pages with care. The familiar words bring comfort, like an old friend's voice whispered across the years. She settles back into her chair, the book resting lightly in her hands. Outside, the sky begins to shift, softening into the pale hues of evening. Birds return to their nests, their songs fading into gentle silence. The day's rhythm slows, and the house breathes in harmony with the fading light. Eleanor takes a slow sip of the cooling tea. Its warmth lingers, a small reminder of simple pleasures. She watches as the last drops catch the light before the cup is set carefully on the table beside her. A sudden knock at the door breaks the quiet. Eleanor pauses, her eyes widening slightly. It's rare for visitors at this hour. She rises slowly, her heart steady but curious, and moves toward the sound, ready to greet whoever waits outside. Opening the door reveals a young woman, soaked from the rain that has started again. Her eyes are bright but tired, and she carries a small bundle wrapped in a faded cloth. Eleanor's curiosity deepens with a gentle smile. "Can I come in?" the woman asks softly. Eleanor nods, stepping aside. The warmth of the house immediately contrasts with the chill outside. The visitor's presence brings a new energy, subtle but unmistakable. The woman unwraps the bundle to reveal a tiny, sleeping kitten. Eleanor's eyes soften at the sight. She gently reaches out, letting the small creature rest in her hands. The kitten's breathing is calm, a quiet promise of new beginnings. Together, they settle near the fire. Eleanor prepares a small bowl of milk while the woman tells her a story. The words flow quietly, like the rain outside, steady, soothing, and full of hope. Hours pass unnoticed as the two women share warmth and stories. Outside, the storm rages on, but inside the house, a fragile light glows, a beacon of kindness and connection in the dark. The woman speaks of distant places and lost dreams. Eleanor listens, her heart opening in ways she hadn't expected. The past and present mingle, weaving a tapestry of shared humanity that transcends time and space. The kitten stirs, blinking up at the two women. A tiny sound escapes its lips, a soft mew that fills the room with unexpected joy. Both women laugh gently, the sound blending with the storm's distant rumble. As the evening deepens, Eleanor offers the guest a spare room. The woman accepts gratefully, her eyes reflecting relief and gratitude. The house, once quiet and solitary, now feels alive with promise. Eleanor prepares a simple meal, the act grounding her in the present. The aroma fills the small kitchen, mixing with the scent of rain and earth. Outside, the world sleeps, but inside, new stories begin to take shape. After dinner, they sit by the fire, the kitten curled between them. The flickering flames cast warm shadows on the walls, painting pictures of comfort and belonging. The night wraps around them like a soft blanket. Eleanor reflects on the unexpected turn her day has taken. Change, she realizes, often arrives quietly, like rain seeping into dry earth. It nourishes and transforms, even when least expected. The storm outside slowly lessens. The rain softens to a gentle patter, then fades into silence. Eleanor feels a deep calm settle over her. The world, with all its uncertainties, is still beautiful in its quiet moments. Before bed, Eleanor walks to the window one last time. The night sky is clear, stars twinkling softly above. The world beyond seems vast and mysterious, yet intimately connected to the small house at Greenvale Street's end. She whispers a quiet goodnight to the stars. Her thoughts drift gently, like the clouds she once watched from this very window. Tonight, she feels a peaceful hope, the kind that only comes from knowing you are exactly where you need to be. Turning away, Eleanor moves to the guest room, where the young woman sleeps peacefully. The kitten nestled close, a symbol of new life and fresh starts. In the stillness, a new chapter quietly begins. Eleanor settles into her own bed, pulling the covers close. The room is cool but comforting. She closes her eyes, the rhythm of the day echoing softly in her mind, a lullaby of rain, warmth, and unexpected friendship. Outside, the first light of dawn begins to glow. The house is silent, except for the gentle breaths of its occupants. Time holds its breath once more, poised on the edge of a new day filled with quiet possibility. Eleanor wakes slowly, the sun casting soft golden rays across her face. The house feels different today, lighter, brighter, alive with the promise of what is yet to come. She stretches and listens to the morning chorus outside. Birds sing with fresh energy, the garden glistens with dew, and the world seems to smile gently upon the little house at the end of the street. Eleanor smiles to herself, knowing that life moves in circles, sometimes quiet, sometimes wild, but always full of moments to be treasured. She rises, ready to face the day with an open heart and steady spirit. The morning breeze drifts through the open window, carrying the scent of blooming flowers. Eleanor inhales deeply, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs. The day feels full of gentle promise and quiet possibilities. She moves slowly through the kitchen, preparing breakfast with calm care. The kettle whistles softly, a familiar sound that marks the start of her daily ritual. Small moments like these are her anchors in a changing world. Outside, the garden calls with its wild beauty. Eleanor steps barefoot onto the soft grass, feeling the coolness beneath her feet. The tangled ivy and bright blossoms remind her that life continues, no matter the storms it faces. She bends to pick a handful of daisies, their white petals delicate against her fingers. These simple treasures brighten her day, each one a small beacon of hope and renewal. She arranges them in a jar on the windowsill. The young woman from last night stirs awake, greeted by the soft light of morning. Eleanor watches quietly, feeling a warm sense of connection. They share a smile, two souls brought together by chance and kindness. Breakfast is shared with quiet conversation. Stories flow gently between them, weaving a tapestry of experiences and dreams. The house hums with newfound warmth, a sanctuary for hearts seeking rest. After breakfast, Eleanor retrieves an old photo album. The pages are worn and faded, filled with memories of years long past. She invites her guests to look, sharing glimpses of a life rich with both joy and sorrow. They laugh softly at forgotten faces and places, the album bridging generations and stories. Time feels fluid here, a thread connecting past, present, and future in a seamless dance of remembrance. Outside, clouds gather slowly, hinting at another rain to come. Eleanor doesn't mind. The rain is a friend, washing the earth clean and soothing the soul. She finds comfort in the steady rhythm of nature's cycles. The afternoon passes with quiet activities. Eleanor tends to her small garden, pruning and watering where needed. Her hands move with practiced ease, nurturing the wild growth that surrounds her home. The young woman helps, their laughter mingling with the sounds of birds and bees. Together, they create a small oasis of calm in the ever-moving world beyond the garden gate. As the sky darkens, they light candles inside. The soft glow fills the rooms with gentle warmth, a quiet beacon against the coming evening. Eleanor feels a deep gratitude for this unexpected friendship. Dinner is simple but hearty. The table is set with care, and the two women share stories of dreams and hopes for the future. The kitten purrs softly at their feet, a tiny heart beating with contentment. Later, by the fire, Eleanor reflects on how life has brought her here. She understands now that even in solitude, connections can form that change everything. The house feels alive with new meaning. The storm begins again outside, rain tapping gently against the windows. Inside, the warmth of friendship wraps around them like a soft blanket, keeping the cold at bay. Eleanor reads aloud from her favorite book, her voice steady and calm. The words weave a spell of comfort, carrying them both into a world of dreams and quiet peace. The young woman listens, eyes closed, letting the story wash over her. The kitten curls closer, sharing in the gentle calm that fills the room. When the story ends, silence holds the space between them. It is a silence full of understanding and unspoken promises. They sit together, content in the simple gift of presence. Eleanor feels a soft smile tug at her lips. She knows that tomorrow will bring new moments, new stories. But for now, this night is enough, wrapped in the quiet magic of companionship. As sleep calls, they rise and prepare for bed. The house settles into a peaceful hush, the storm outside fading to a distant murmur. Eleanor pauses at the window, looking out at the starry sky. She whispers a thank you to the night for its gentle watch, feeling safe and at peace. The young woman follows, joining her briefly. Together, they share a quiet moment beneath the vast expanse of sky, feeling small but connected. Back in their rooms, they drift into restful sleep. Dreams carry them softly through the night, weaving hope into the fabric of tomorrow. Morning arrives with soft light and birdsong. Eleanor wakes refreshed, ready to greet the day with calm and grace. The house feels full of promise. Each corner seems to hum with life and gentle energy, a place where healing begins. Eleanor prepares tea once more, savoring the ritual that grounds her. She looks forward to sharing another day with her guest. Outside, the garden shines with morning dew. The wildflowers stretch toward the sun, vibrant and full of life. The young woman joins her by the window, their eyes meeting in quiet understanding. Together, they watch the world awaken. Eleanor feels a warm hope blossoming inside her, a gentle light to carry forward. Life, she knows, is full of unexpected gifts. With a deep breath, she steps into the new day, ready to embrace whatever comes with open arms and a steady heart. Eleanor folded the laundry with quiet focus. The rhythm of her hands matched the breeze slipping through the window. Each shirt and towel held the warmth of sunlight. Folding brought her peace, a task so small yet grounding in its simplicity. The young woman read by the window, her fingers slowly tracing the lines. The kitten rested in her lap, purring like a soft melody. Eleanor glanced at them with a smile. The house had not felt this alive in quite some time. In the late morning sun, they worked together in the garden. Weeds gave way to open space. Soil turned easily under their fingers. Between handfuls of earth, they shared small stories. The silence between them was calm, not empty. The young woman held a broken pot in her hands. Eleanor took it gently, placing it beside the others. Cracks did not mean useless. Some things only needed care to be whole again. She knew this truth by heart, as if it were stitched in her. Later, they sat on the porch drinking lemon tea. The breeze smelled of honeysuckle and rain. Somewhere, a dog barked. The world moved softly around them. The house sighed with comfort, as though it too was glad for the company. They watched the clouds drift by in silence. One looked like a fish, another like a sailboat. Time passed without urgency. Moments like this were not made of hours or minutes, but of stillness, like breath held between heartbeats. Eleanor showed her the old attic that afternoon. Dust danced in the sunlight, slicing through the boards. Boxes lined the walls, filled with things long untouched. Letters, fabric, forgotten trinkets. Every item a thread of another story. They found a small music box tucked inside a velvet pouch. Eleanor wound it gently. The tune was slightly off, but beautiful in its own way. The melody filled the attic, and both women stood still, letting the sound settle in their chests. The music box stopped, but the feeling lingered. The young woman blinked slowly, as if waking from a dream. Eleanor closed the box and returned it to its place. Some songs are meant to be heard just once before they fade quietly. Dinner was quiet that evening. The house hummed low and steady. Outside, crickets sang to the growing dark. Candles flickered on the table, casting golden light across the walls. The day had been long but gentle, the best kind of day. Eleanor washed the dishes while her guest dried them. The rhythm of their movement filled the kitchen. No words were needed. The simple act of cleaning became a kind of ritual, a shared moment without the weight of conversation. The kitten chased a string across the floor, paws batting in playful chaos. Laughter filled the air. Eleanor had forgotten the sound of such joy echoing in her house. She let it fill her, not as a memory, but as something truly present. As the moon rose, Eleanor stepped outside. The night air was cool, the stars sharp and bright. She looked up, hands tucked into her sleeves. A quiet prayer formed in her mind, not of words, but of thankfulness for this new stillness. Inside, the young woman had fallen asleep on the couch, the kitten curled against her. A book rested gently on her chest. Eleanor placed a blanket over them and turned off the lamp. The room glowed with soft peace and slowing breath. Eleanor lay in bed, awake but calm. The house made soft sounds around her. Wood creaked, pipes ticked, wind brushed the window pane. Each noise reminded her she was home, not just in place, but in feeling, rooted and safe. Morning arrived with golden light. Birds sang from the trees, and leaves trembled under a gentle breeze. Eleanor sat with her tea, feeling the warmth seep into her fingers. The world outside felt fresh, newly painted in softer tones. They decided to walk into town together. The path curved gently between fields and trees. Wildflowers brushed their legs, and the kitten followed at a safe distance. The day stretched ahead, quiet and waiting to be filled. The market buzzed with soft chatter. Eleanor bought fresh bread while her guest admired the fabric stall. People smiled and nodded, some offering simple greetings. Eleanor hadn't been seen with company in many seasons. They sat on a bench beneath a willow tree, breaking bread and sharing slices of cheese. The kitten watched birds flit between branches. The town moved slowly around them, like a river winding without rush toward tomorrow. On the walk back, clouds gathered above them. Rain fell in light drops at first, then faster. They laughed as they ran down the road, soaked and breathless. The kitten meowed in protest, but its tiny paws kept pace with theirs. Back home, they toweled off and changed into dry clothes. Eleanor lit the fire. Steam rose from their mugs, and the room filled with the scent of herbs. Outside, the rain tapped gently. Inside, warmth grew from the smallest things. That evening, Eleanor wrote in her journal. Her hand moved slowly across the page. She didn't record great events, just feelings and small details. A way to hold the passing days gently, without clutching too hard. The young woman watched the flames with quiet eyes. Her mind wandered to places not spoken aloud, but Eleanor saw the weight behind her gaze. She didn't ask. Sometimes, presence says more than any question ever could. Night grew thick outside the windows. The house settled again into stillness. The kitten stretched along the back of the couch, tail flicking softly. Everything felt balanced, as though the world outside had paused to listen. Eleanor stood at the window and whispered goodnight to the stars. The words held no urgency, only kindness, only love. Then she closed the curtains, leaving the dark outside and the calm inside to hold her gently. She dreamed of her garden blooming in endless light. Flowers sang without sound. Trees bent low and welcome. In the dream, she walked barefoot, unhurried, her hands full of petals. Nothing chased her. Nothing pulled her away. Morning came with soft thunder. Rain whispered on the roof. Eleanor lay still a little longer, listening. These were the hours she loved most, before the world asked anything of her, while everything felt new again. The young woman was already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Eleanor smiled at the sound of dishes and quiet footsteps. Together, they made eggs and toast, their movements natural and easy, like they had done this forever. After breakfast, they sat with their tea, watching the garden from the doorway. Raindrops slid from leaf to leaf. A robin hopped near the fence. Eleanor's heart felt light, filled with something she hadn't dared name in years. She glanced at her guest and realized she no longer felt like a guest. She was part of the rhythm now, part of the quiet heart of the house. Eleanor took another sip of tea and let herself hope the girl might stay longer. The rain eased into a soft mist. Eleanor opened the back door and stepped onto the porch. The air smelled clean. The earth below seemed to breathe. She closed her eyes and listened to the world settle into something quiet and kind. Later, they played a quiet game of cards by the window. The kitten pawed at the edges of the table, trying to steal a piece. Laughter filled the space between them. The storm had passed. Something peaceful had taken its place. The young woman asked Eleanor about the house, how long she had lived there, what it meant to her. Eleanor answered with stories, short and simple, each one tied to a corner, a room, a sound, a scent. The house was part of her dot. They painted the back fence that afternoon. Slow strokes of white brushed over the old wood. Each line brought new life. The fence did not become new, but it looked loved, the same way Eleanor felt now, in this season of change. Evening came again. The air cooled. The sky blushed with orange and pink. They sat in silence, watching it fade. The kitten fell asleep on Eleanor's lap. No words were needed. Just breath, just presence, just peace. The young woman spoke of leaving. Not soon, but eventually. Eleanor nodded. Her heart ached, but gently. She had known from the beginning that this was borrowed time, that some people arrive only to keep you company for a while. She made stew that night, the house filled with the smell of thyme and garlic. They ate slowly, savoring each bite. The table held not just food, but memory. Every meal shared became part of the home's quiet story. Before bed, they folded laundry together again. Eleanor showed her how to fold the corners just right. They laughed at how stubborn the sheets could be. The task was simple, but the moment was full of care. As she lay in bed, Eleanor looked at the ceiling and thought of all the days behind her. Not with regret, but with thanks. Every morning had led to this one, and in this one she had not felt alone. Morning arrived with golden light and stillness. The young woman stood at the window. She turned and smiled. Eleanor smiled back. The room felt warm. Their hearts were soft, open, and ready for whatever would come next. They spent the day organizing the attic. Dust clung to their sleeves, but they didn't mind. They uncovered a box of old scarves and tried them on, each more colorful than the last. The house felt like it was laughing with them. That evening, the young woman packed a small bag. She would leave the next day. Eleanor helped fold her clothes, her hands steady. This parting held no sadness, only quiet gratitude for time shared, for mornings made lighter. They sat by the fire one last time. The kitten dozed between them. The flames cracked gently. The silence was different now. Not empty. Full. Full of what had been built between them. A bond soft but strong. Eleanor gave her a book before bed. Inside was a note, short and written in a careful hand. It read, "You are always welcome here." The young woman read it twice, and folded it and placed it in her coat pocket. The next morning came like any other. The tea was made. The rain had passed. The young woman stood at the door with her bag and her coat. The kitten meowed softly from her shoulder. She leaned in and hugged Eleanor close. Then she was gone. The house felt quiet again, but not empty. Eleanor stood by the window, sipping her tea. The chair beside hers remained warm for a while, and she let it be. Change had come, and she had welcomed it. The days that followed moved slowly. Eleanor returned to her routines, but they felt different now. Not smaller, not heavier, just fuller. Every step she took carried the weight of kindness and shared time. She found herself smiling at small things. A bird on the fence, a breeze in the curtains, the scent of warm bread drifting from the bakery. The world had not changed, but she had, and that made all the difference. Letters came now and then, folded with care, written with warmth. Each one spoke of new towns, new days, and memories kept close. Eleanor read them by the window, always with tea, always with soft joy in her heart. One morning, as the sky turned pale, Eleanor sat in her chair once more. The street was quiet. The ivy still climbed the wall. The cup still warmed her hands. And she knew, without doubt, that everything was exactly as it should be.